Hey there, I'm Kara Stern. I'm the host of Snack Size PD, which is a professional development series for overzoomed teachers and principals out there in the world. And I myself am a veteran educator, and now I work as the resident educator at Smore. And our topic for today is getting started with diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And my guests are Namita Tolia and Sean Kraling, who are the founders of REG, Reimagine Education Group. They are seasoned educators both, and now working with districts all around the country who are engaging in diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI work. So thank you both so much for joining me. And I want to stay efficient, so let's get right to it. So school is about, right? Teachers are focused on making sure students are successful, academically successful, and that they graduate. So why DEI training? What is the relationship between having a school undergo diversity, equity, and inclusion training and achieving student success?
So that's actually a really good question because it is on schools, right? To make sure that our students are successful academically, that they're graduating, but it's also our responsibility as educators, right, as schools to create environments, school buildings, where our children, our kids feel included because, well, after all, we all belong. And a really great example of how we can positively impact how our students feel is by using inclusive language. I know it sounds easy, but sometimes it requires some changes because we're so conditioned and used to speaking a certain way. But just like, for example, instead of saying parents, because not all of our kids have parents or live with their parents, saying grown-ups will allow all of our kids to feel included, not excluded when we're speaking with them. Or instead of saying boys and girls, maybe saying friends or class. So again, that everybody's feeling included. Because when you feel good, seen, heard, valued, when you feel like you matter, you're more receptive to learning and you're more willing to take risks, something we need to do in our education. And at the end of the day, you're going to more optimally benefit from the experiences in the classroom as a whole. And yeah, that's really it. It's that social emotional component we always talk about in education, really in action.
Great, thank
Thanks,
you.
Sean. And I would just add that it also defines how, matters how we're defining academic success. Is it the standardized test score that schools so often value? Is it the children's GPAs? Or I think Sean and I would probably say it's about students developing a deep understanding, critical thinking, the ability to take perspectives, creativity, inventiveness. And I think that diversity, equity, and inclusivity training provides educators a lens that empowers them to think about curriculum, whether they're units of study, their literature choices, in a way that goes beyond providing equitable learning, which is a worthy goal in and of itself, to all the way to the ideas about empowering our students to go boldly into their futures. For
Mhm.
example, at REG, we offer a training that helps teachers see systemic advantage and disadvantage using current events as our source material. Teachers find that they then have sort of a trained mindset and they can transfer that lens to curriculum and other things in school life and get feedback that they have aha moments. So we're happy about that.
That sounds amazing. And just to connect the two comments that you made, Namita and Sean, that even if the focus is on, say, the fourth grade test score, a student is going to be more likely to be able to engage in what's needed to be successful if they feel valued and seen in their classroom. So yes, I see that. All right. So we're establishing why this is so important, but that doesn't mean that it's so intuitive for how you get started. So if you're a principal and you've done some reading and thinking about what work you want to do with your faculty, and you feel like it's really important to get some DEI training to them, where do you start? Like, what advice would you give to that principal about where they should get started?
Well, they should call Reg. So we get this question all the time whenever we're speaking with directors of curriculum and instruction, principals, superintendents, and there are various entry points, but we recommend starting with the self. In all of our workshops, and I mean, I say all of them that we've done so far, we really start with the self. We help educators explore their dimensions of diversity, or in sociology, their social identifiers, and this helps them better understand themselves and also better understand their students. It's so important to remember that DEI work is grounded in self-awareness, right? So in the work that we do with educators, we take them from the intrapersonal part of the journey to the interpersonal relationships, the interpersonal part of that journey. And this is just really the beginning of the lifelong commitment of DEI work.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we are, through what Sean is talking about, exploring our dimensions of diversity, starting with our own self, we come to see the systems of oppression, sexism, ableism, classism, racism, and more that we've all grown up with and that are all around us all the time. And we begin to analyze, we begin to have the fog start to lift a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and we see how we ourselves are affected, and therefore we see how our students are affected. And from that place of seeing more clearly, I think educators feel excited about identifying dynamics that are at work in a given moment, in a given unit of study, in a given social interaction, in a given disciplinary situation. What are the dynamics that are at work for our students? How do they show up in our classroom routines or our school rules and in our curriculum as well, always?
Well, so that takes me to my third question, right? Because 3 questions, you know, like a booster of ideas for people. Teachers, I spend a lot of time talking to teachers. Teachers are really overwhelmed right now. And so the thought of engaging in more training or learning something new, it's a hard time for that. That said, teachers are lifelong learners. And if this was an area that they felt they wanted to grow, could you suggest one thing they could do starting tomorrow to create an equitable classroom environment?
Sure. So actually, there's one thing that teachers, educators can do, and it doesn't really require any changes to curriculum or instruction. At first, it starts by allowing yourself to introduce yourself to your students as who you are, your whole self, to be vulnerable, let them see who you are, and then invite them to do the same. So it might be, in this case, as a first step of just, what do you want to be called in class? Not just what's on this list here. Your name's Michael, you prefer Mikey. Great, I'm gonna call you Mikey. You use your middle name, Sarah, Marie, perfect. Marie instead of Sarah. That's how you feel comfortable, want to be seen. Or maybe it's a name that you picked up in childhood or something, a character from TV, and that will make you feel safe and included and good and really present. Then I, as the teacher, should use that and honor that so that you can be your full self in the classroom.
I love that. Thank you.
Me too. I'll offer you another concrete idea to add on. We all have, as teachers, a lot of autonomy over our classroom libraries. We can look at them and try to notice whether what's on the shelves available for children to read. Books can be mirrors that we see ourselves in and we feel validated by, or they can be windows that we're looking out of and offering a different experience. And every good classroom library needs a balance of both. And I want to offer you 2 practical places to go if you notice that your classroom library could use more mirrors to have more students reflected. and their cultural and their identity experiences as well. We all know the Caldecott Medal or the Newbery. Those are sort of the two more prominent, and teachers, we go to those lists every year to find high quality literature that librarians have vetted, but there are so many other awards. I'll just name two: the Belpré Award. That is awarded every year to a Latino or Latina writer or illustrator. And the Coretta Scott King Book Award is awarded to an outstanding work of African American literature that reflects the African American experience, authors and illustrators. And there are so many more, just Google it. There are so many more to look at where we can find books that might not be right on the main lists or catalogs where we always make purchases. And what we can do is diversify our classroom libraries so that children are feeling that their experience in the different dimensions of their own diversity are allowed in the classroom, and there are more windows to explore and more mirrors to reflect back.
Great. Well, I feel very inspired by this conversation, and I hope that this PD snack offers a good burst of energy to anyone else who has watched it, like it has to me, listening to the two of you. And thank you so much, Sean and Namita, and to anyone who's watching. And stay safe out there, and good teaching.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kara.